The Disney College Program. Sounds like a dream, right? Work at Disney World, live near the parks, and get behind the scenes magic. But before you apply, there are some hard truths about the program that you need to know. So let's dive into the reality of the DCP, the good, the tough, and what nobody tells you before you start.
Today we are pulling back the Pixie Dust curtain to talk about something that is near and dear to a lot of our hearts, the Disney College Program.
Now, before we dive in, let me be very clear. The DCP can be absolutely magical. You're working at the most magical place on Earth, meeting people from around the globe, and building friendships that can last a lifetime. But let's talk about the hard truths that don't always make it into Disney's cute little promotional videos. Think of this video as your backstage pass to the real experience, coming from two former college program kids.
So what exactly is the Disney College Program? Some people are going to tell you different things, but truthfully, it is a internship/part-time job that you can do with Walt Disney World, where you take a sabbatical from school. Sometimes you can do it during the summer, but you literally leave your college and you move down to Florida and you get to live, work, and play and experience what it might mean to be a Disney cast member. The goal of it is to teach you valuable lessons, particularly for your degree, but it's not for one particular degree, technically, but it's really about leadership, hospitality, hosting, a lot of those kind of educational viewpoints is what it's really aimed to teach you about. You do get assigned a role. It can be anything from merchandise to custodial to quick services, even guest relations. There's a lot of different roles that you can get assigned. You do work directly with guests, so you're just like a regular cast member. Your time is just limited, whereas that is their full-time or part-time job. It isn't just work though. You actually do get to live in company-owned housing, which is really, really cool. You make a lot of friends. You get to do a lot of really unique experiences. They're only open to the Disney College Program participants. It is really, really cool. And I have been lucky enough to do it once, and so has Fry, which is why we're the ones talking about it today.
When I did the Disney College Program, I did it in fall of 2019, which also Emma did. So we were working at Disney World at the same time, never knew each other, which I think is crazy. I first got food and beverage in Toy Story Land. So I was working Woody's Lunchbox and I was there for about a month. And then I was selected to be on Galaxy's Edge opening team. From July until the rest of my program, I was working in Galaxy's Edge. I was actually at Docking Bay 7, Ronto Roasters, and Katsaka's Kettle. It's all the same kitchen back there. They're all connected. And I loved it. I had a blast. And I did the college program from June 2019 until January 2020. So thankfully I was home with my family before all that.
So my roles, the first one was food and bev. I worked in quick service at the boardwalk, and everywhere I worked for the most part is gone now or switched and completely different. And then for the second half of my program, I actually worked at merchandising for Hollywood Studios. So I got to work at Rock Around the Shop, which is the exit shop for Rock and Roller Coaster. And then I got to do the pink carts outside. I also got to do a cart that previously RIP was for Lightning McQueen's Racing Academy. And then I also worked at Tower Gifts as you're leaving Tower of Terror. So as you can tell, you kind of rotate through a lot of places. Typically what happens with your role is you're going to get assigned an area and you're going to be trained in one type of role. However, that area might have multiple places that you could work at. When you do the interview process, you kind of can tell them what you're excited about, but
hard truth number one, you might not get the role you want. In fact, you most likely won't get the role you actually want. When you apply to the DCP, you'll get to rank your role preferences. Maybe you've been dreaming of working at the Haunted Mansion since you were 6, or you've practiced your Jungle Cruise jokes in the mirror 1,000 times. But here's the deal. Disney assigns roles based on operational needs first, not by your dream list. That means you might end up in a role you didn't even consider, like custodial, or parking lot operations, or quick service food and beverage. So it happened to me. And for some, that feels like a letdown at first. Imagine getting your acceptance email and finding out you'll be selling churros in an outdoor cart instead of operating your favorite ride. It stings a little, especially if you've romanticized the experience. But here's the surprising twist. A ton of alumni say that their unexpected role ended up being the most rewarding part of their program. Quick service folks often bond tightly as teams. I can attest to that, especially when you're opening a new land. Custodial cast members get a lot more guest interaction than you'd think. And even those parking lot positions can come with some memorable pixie dust moments, plus fewer guests yelling at you about Lightning Lane issues. Bottom line, your DCP might not start the way you pictured it, but that doesn't mean it won't be meaningful, magical, or even better than you expected. When I had my phone interview, the entire conversation, I was talking to the recruiter about lifeguarding because I had lifeguarded at a summer camp for many years in the past. At the end of that, I thought that's the role that I was going to get. But here's the deal. The very last question that she asked me, would you be open to any role? And I said yes. which I do recommend. That is how you're going to get into the college program. If you are more picky and say, no, I won't do every role, I'll only do a select few, then you probably won't get accepted. Which, speaking of, if you're curious about the entire application process for the Disney College program and would like a separate video on that, please let me know in the comments. I watched tons of YouTube videos before I applied to make sure I had the best chance. So if you would like us to do one on that separately, let me know in the comments below and we can add it to the schedule.
Hard truth number 2 is there are long hours and really weird schedules. So this is the point that a lot of people kind of get thrown off by. Like, you think you're just gonna go live at Disney World for a summer, sometimes you might work. That's not true. You are there to work, and that is the first thing I tell anyone signing up for the DCP. Is the reality is the DCP is structured like a real job, full-time / part-time job, depending on how many hours you get, but you can get hours anywhere from 30 to 50 hours a week, and that is being realistic. I have worked more than that on my DCP at times. It really depends on where you're at, what season you're there. If you're there during the holidays, you are going to work more. If you're there during the summer, you're going to work a little bit more. Another thing that you need to know is the scheduling is anything but traditional. So you're not really going to work like a 9 to 5. Disney doesn't work on a 9 to 5. The entire Disney company actually operates on a 24-hour time schedule, which means a lot of your shifts are going to have that like 24-hour number. I actually struggled with that. It also might mean that you're working shifts until 1 or 2 a.m. I had shifts that started at 4 a.m. when I worked at the bakery. It just depends, and it literally runs all throughout the night. You also might have something that's called a clopin shift, so you're closing and you're opening. I experienced this many times. It means that you have the closing shift, you're gonna go home, you're gonna sleep for a few hours, and then you're gonna turn right back around and you're gonna open the park as well. Some people are even gonna have things like split shifts. This happens more often if you're picking up shifts, but it can still get assigned to you. It means you're working a shift in the morning, you're gonna go home, take a break, take a nap, eat some lunch, and then you're gonna go back for a nighttime shift. And then at times you can also work back-to-back shifts, which means you literally don't have a single bit of turnaround time. You go from one to the next. Plus, another thing to note is that it opens rain, shine, potential hurricanes. It is very rare for Disney to not operate. So don't expect to get like a snow day from school. You're not going to, you're gonna be working. You're gonna work the weekends. You're gonna work the 4th of July. You're gonna work spring break. I had to work on Easter. That was a very emotional time for me. It was like my first holiday away from my family, and I had to go work. And it's just something that you're gonna have to experience. And a lot of people, because a lot of people are in college for the first time, have never had to do that. They've never had to be away. And it's something that really shocks a lot of people. There's a lot of DCP kids that work on Christmas Day. And the reason that is because you guys, you're the newbies, first in, first out, you're getting the worst roles. You're getting the worst shifts, I should say. And that means that if the seasoned cast members who are union, they don't want to work on Christmas, they're not going to work on Christmas because you guys are going to work on Christmas. So it's just kind of something to be aware of. This also means that there's going to be fewer times to hang out with your group or just like go to the parks and have a lot of fun. For a lot of people who are participating, this is also really your first real world job. A lot of us have jobs in high school and going into college, but this is like, you're not doing anything else. You're working. This is your full job. You're going to quickly learn when to take your naps, to make sure you're wearing the right socks because you don't want blisters, to bring your water bottle. You're going to need it. You're going to get dehydrated even if you're just standing on your feet all day. You're going to learn to pack your lunches, bring your snacks, all that good stuff. A lot of people are going to walk away from this experience with better stamina. They're going to walk away with better work experience. They're going to walk away with different communicational skills that you probably didn't have before. Even if you're not working in one of the industries that we talked about, like guest relations, hospitality, management, you still need to learn professional skills. You still need to learn how to talk to people. And this is going to be a wonderful place for you to learn to do that. You also are going to gain a huge appreciation for the cast members. My first shift ever not being trained, like not having someone with me, was the Super Bowl that year. And I worked the pizza window, which this is when ESPN Club was still open and they had like all the screens outside and it was like a huge party. It's where all the dads would go. And I had just learned how to pour beer for the first time ever in my life. And I was working with one other person that night and the chef who was making pizza at the pizza window. And it was crazy. And I don't remember most of it, and it was just wild. The leader of Team Anxiety, you can imagine how I felt on that Super Bowl. It was wild.
Hard truth number 3, tiny apartments, big roommate energy. When you join the Disney College program, you're not just clocking in for shifts, you're also sharing a living space with other program participants. Disney offers company-sponsored housing, and depending on the unit, you could have up to 7 roommates. That means 4 people per bedroom in some cases, shared bathrooms, and communal everything. Kitchens, fridges, couches, and occasionally emotional breakdowns over someone using your almond milk. The housing itself is safe and secure, but it's also compact, so privacy, not really a thing. People have different habits and schedules. Someone's trying to sleep post-midnight shift while someone else is blasting Disney vlogs, hopefully AllEars.net vlogs, and meal prepping at 6 a.m. It's a melting pot of personalities, routines, and cleanliness standards. Sounds chaotic? It can be. But here's the twist. This intense setup can also foster some of the strongest friendships you'll ever build. You'll learn to communicate, to compromise, and to coexist with people from all walks of life. You might have awkward roommate group chats and fridge labeling debates, but you'll also have inside jokes, themed nights out, and maybe even lifelong besties. And hey, at the very least, you'll walk away with some legendary roommate stories. I do still talk to my DCP roommates often. I try to see them every time I go to Orlando. Doesn't always work out with my packed AllEars.net schedule, but there have been many, many times when I'm down in Orlando and we all grab dinner together just to catch up. However, you might not always get along with your roommates, and I also have quite a big story about that. Here's the thing. I mean, I did the college program after I graduated, so I was done. I had completed my 4 years of college. I went after the fact, which you can do. Lots of people don't do that. They will take a semester off before they are done with college. A lot of them maybe are going to community college back home and never moved away. So moving possibly across the country for the first time ever is a big deal. Maybe they've never budgeted. Maybe they've never had like a serious job where you can't be late and you have to think of all these things ahead of time and you have to meal prep and you have to buy your groceries. And it's a big deal for a lot of the college program kids, and it can be very stressful. And sometimes people are living with roommates for the first time, and that can be hard. I'm not going to tell the whole story because, quite frankly, it's long, and I think I mostly blacked it out from my memory. I was in the room with 3 girls total, so it was me and 2 others, and then there was a separate bedroom with 2 girls. So there were 5 of us. 2 bedrooms, 2 separate bathrooms, communal living room and kitchen area. Me and the girls in my room got along great. Shout out Taylor and Stephanie if you're watching this. Now, the other 2, like we weren't automatically besties with them, but that's okay. You don't have to be super best friends with your roommates. That's fine. How do I say this without giving away too much? Basically, the 2 of them did not get along at all. And one of them had started dating a man. Basically would be at our apartment and we didn't know, and we were like, hey, you can't do that. That's not cool. I want to feel safe in my own apartment. Crazy. And she did not care. So we ended up going to Disney Housing, like the actual Disney college program staff. And we basically had a meeting and Disney kicked them out. So then the 2 new girls moved in and they were great. And we loved them. So long story short, you might not get along with your roommates, and that's okay. Good old college program. Huh.
I am going to jump in on Fry's point here. Tiny apartment, big roommate energy for sure. My roommates and I will say not all of us, there were 6 of us in our 2-bedroom apartment, and 4 of us are still incredibly close. We had our fair share of roommate issues. We had to go to housing and have meetings to get it sorted, which is a growth. Next hard truth. Listen, you're not on vacation. You think you're on vacation. You think you're having so much fun and like, oh my gosh, I'm at Disney World, and you are. And you're working. Are you noticing a theme here? Are you noticing a theme in our points? You're at work. You're not on vacation. I'm sorry. I have to be the person to tell you because you have to know. Yeah, you're living at Disney World. It is true. It's not just like this semester-long vacation that you're getting to take. Like it's a lot, and you have to learn to juggle a lot as well. It's not just going to the parks in your free time. Like you still have to lead an adult life. You have to make sure that you're doing things correctly, or at least what's correct to you. And you're not on vacation. You still have to do the things that kind of stink about being an adult. Well, it always stinks, but isn't the most fun thing. To be honest, all of this considered, a full park day is really like a luxury. You're not going to be at Magic Kingdom every day. You might not even be at Magic Kingdom every Saturday. If you happen to have Saturdays off, you might get a full day off and think, I don't want to go to the parks, because yes, you say you're not going to get there, you'll get there. It's also important to note that because you're not on this lovely long vacation, you're going to have blockout days. So cast members do have their main gate pass. That's how they get in instead of having like an annual pass. That's one of the perks of the DCP and of being a cast member. But you're going to have blockout dates. And that is just something you're going to have to swallow because they are fairly frequent, especially if you're there during the holidays. Blockout dates, they operate the same way that annual pass holder blockout dates do, if you're so kind of familiar with that. It's just days you can't go in. Most of the time, asterisk, read your blockout date, it's Magic Kingdom's going to be the biggest problem for you, especially during the holidays. Magic Kingdom, they don't want you there. They have guests, and you work for them, so kind of not a guest. School breaks are also going to be a great example of when you're going to see a lot of blockout dates. So even if you do have the day off and you really want to go to the park, you might not be able to. You can buy a ticket, but kind of negates the perk of it all. You will also experience the emotion of it kind of being a bummer when you see all your friends like posting their vacation pictures or like having a really nice time in the parks if they're there for fun and you can't get in. So you are at Flamingo Crossing doing your laundry and just kind of washing dishes, wishing you were able to meet up with them and you're not. The mental switch from I'm in Disney World to I work at Disney World is going to take you some time. And honestly, if you love it, you're going to love it. And I loved it. Like I loved it so much. But there is going to be a mental switch where all of a sudden one day the experience becomes realistic. And then for some people, that realistic experience is going to become rewarding. And then for some people, it is not rewarding and it's almost like disappointing in a weird way.
Hard truth number 5. Pixie dust isn't always enough. The Disney College program might sound like nonstop smiles and magic, but even the most magical place on Earth has its challenging days. Long hours in the heat, aching feet after a 12-hour shift, and the occasional cranky guest who takes out their frustrations on you. Those things are part of the job too. It's easy to imagine you'll be basking in fireworks every night, but sometimes you're backstage scrubbing melted Mickey bars off of a costume or dealing with spilled popcorn while a toddler melts down next to you, and their parents. That kind of chaos takes grit. There are moments when the magic doesn't just feel distant, it feels invisible. These are the moments that teach you resilience. You learn how to smile through the stress, recover from mistakes, and bounce back after tough shifts. You figure out how to be calm under pressure, kind under stress, and professional even when you just want to crawl back into bed. What's powerful is that so many alumni say those tougher days are where they grew the most. And when the magic does land, when a guest thanks you for making their day, when you see a kid light up at a character hug, or when your team nails a challenging shift together, it hits deeper. You appreciate it more because you earned it. Most likely, the reason why you got the job in the first place is because you love the magic. And when you get a little bit of it, and when you get to sprinkle it out to other guests, it's going to make it all worth it. Don't think that this job is going to be rainbows and butterflies and Mickey Mouse ice cream bars all the time. It's not. There are going to be days where you're going to want to cry on stage in front of guests, and you can't. Just know ahead of time, you will get through it, and it's going to be worth it.
You need to know all of these, but like really understand this. You will not be rolling in dough. You're not going to make a lot of money on this lovely DCP. The DCP pays minimum wage. It's like slightly above minimum wage. You're paid hourly. It's a normal part-time job in that sense. But the point is you're not going to be making like tons and tons and tons of money. One thing that is really important that you need to know is your housing that you live in. It is at Disney. They're going to take it out of your paycheck. Transportation taken out of your paycheck if you're going to use those Disney buses. And even if you don't, that's part of the fees that you have to pay. It's a paid experience for sure, but you're paying Disney and also they're paying you. They get something out of it too. You don't just get to live in that house. You have to rent their apartments. And they just take it directly out of your check, so you're not missing anything. My great-grandfather actually passed away when I was on my DCP, and I had to leave to go home for that. And I had to talk with my managers about making sure I had enough hours that week that I was gone to cover my housing, because you can't just go cut them a check. They take it directly out of your paycheck. So I worked enough to cover my housing, and then I think my paycheck had like $15 on it. Like, it was not much. So you're not going to be making a lot of money unless you just are picking up shifts and working day and night, which some people do. Typically, after they do take out the rent check, you're going to have enough for groceries. You're going to have enough for, your necessities, maybe a little bit of Dole Whip money, but you're not going to be like paying for a VIP tour or anything. It is very livable. It is also tight. And for most college kids, like that's that's just college. Like, that's not a big deal. But if you're kind of coming in with the expectation that you're going to be making a lot of money, you're just not. They do host a lot of housing events, which is really nice. They do cast member style events where I remember there was times where they were doing like grocery bingo. You could go win groceries, you could go win supplies for your house. They were also kind of social events, so it kind of doubled. This is also a great time in your life that you're going to learn budgeting. If you've not already learned that, you're going to learn budgeting. You're going to learn that maybe you're going to go on some Costco runs and split groceries with your friends. You're going to figure out what food is shelf stable and not going to go bad in 2 days. It's just, again, lots of good life experience. And a lot of people, I think, again, have that like Disney vacation mentality. No, you're going to learn about life and about yourself and how you handle those adult situations when you're suddenly hundreds of miles from your family. That being said, most people are not doing it for the money. It's an experience, it's networking, it's once in a lifetime, and I think it's so worth that. But if you know that you have certain bills that you have to pay or certain financial obligations, you need to be aware that you're not going to be making a ton of money. And if you're anything like me, any money you do make is going to go straight back to Mickey. Bought this on my DCP. Most of my knickknacks, my DCP. Every ear I've ever owned, DCP. So any money I didn't have, I pretty much turned right back around and gave it back to Mickey, which is great and I loved it. And I don't regret a single thing, but you're probably gonna do the same thing. If you go in with the mentality that you're going to be a Disney princess who's strolling through the parks every single day, or a Disney prince, it's just not gonna happen. And you just need to kind of get that in your head. It's going to be a defining chapter for your life. It's going to be such a special moment. I consider it one of the best things I've ever done in my life, and I think I always will. But I also think I was very privileged to know exactly what I was walking into and not have this like fairy tale, pun unintended, of what it could be.
Also, if you are a current or former Disney World cast member, I just want to say thank you. You make so much magic every single day at work, and it does not go unnoticed here at AllEars. Don't forget to like this video if you enjoyed it, and leave this secret code in the comments so I know that you watched the entire thing. And don't forget to subscribe. We post ride challenges, resort tours, tips, secrets, fun games, and more from Disney World and beyond, because we're serious about fun here. See you next time.